Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 132 of Six Figure Live. My name is Ben Hartley with Style and Strike Creative, Six Figure Photography. Coming to you guys live from my guest bedroom. Thanks for joining today's Q&A Friday. We've got so many questions that have piled in. Look, as people kind of arrive here, I'm going to make sure that everything is good to go. Lighting's kind of junk in here. It's pretty intense, super high key image. Hopefully people will get a chance to tune on in here live. Episode 132. You guys, the way this works is with Q&A Friday, I get the opportunity to sit down and connect with so many photographers and understand your challenges and your struggles. A lot of you guys shoot me emails and you reply, and I want to honor that, and I want to talk about these things, because if one photographer is having a struggle, if one photographer is having a challenge or problem, that means that then just a bunch of us are. And so I just want to address them head on and talk about it. I love Q&A Friday because it really gets a dialogue going. As you guys enter in, say hi, leave some thumbs up, some comments. Nate's here, Victoria's here, Ben's here, a bunch of other people. Say hi, you guys. I'd love to chat. Hey, just so you guys know, so every single Friday we take off. If you guys don't know, Style and Strike Creative, there's three of us, myself, Ben Adams, Stephen Lowe. So Ben and Stephen are at home. So then I just work from home on Fridays. And so it's usually me, to kind of let myself off the hook here, it's usually me just like scrubbing it. I'm like, again, in my guest room. My daughter will be like screaming in the other room. Who knows when she comes barreling in here like a cannonball. Albert, hey man. So anyhow, that's kind of the dynamic that we have on Fridays, but I take this time to still show up and try to provide value to you guys. That's really it. Six Figure Live is really about just showing up and helping provide value to you guys in any way, because this stuff is really hard. It's hard to do business alone. And I want to help to be a voice for you guys, just someone to help to give you that inspiration, that little kick that you might need, some direction. Anything that I can really do, because I've been there, I've been on the other side. I'm there on the other side all the time. I am lucky that I have Ben Adams and Stephen Lowe with me, that we get to build each other up every single day. But I understand that we all don't have that person that we get to work with. And so that's the purpose of it. Ryan says, hey, Ryan, finally got to watch the Bridal Show webinar, but I'll pause it for the live. Ben Hartley. Awesome, Ryan. Yeah, pause that thing, man. You guys, look, my inbox has exploded this week. I don't know what's been going on, but I think Turn It Up conference, there's a ton of people that got the opportunity to hear what I had to say on Turn It Up. And so if that's where you've come from, welcome. I'm really excited that you're here, but I just have... it was ludicrous. It was insane. It was like every single time I would respond to an email, like 4 more would come in. And so I've just got so many questions, so many struggles, so many challenges that photographers are facing that I'm going to weigh in on today, and talk about the experiences that I've had, right? As we go into this, you guys understand a couple things. For starters, understand this. This is what we still do. We're still full-time photographers. I'm still a full-time photographer. I'm not just out there like teaching things. Like we're applying the stuff and we're walking the walk. So understand that. The second thing is understand that I've both gone through these things, so I'm only going to weigh in on the stuff that I've experienced and that I've had to work through and solve, and that we're continuing to go through this stuff, right? You guys get that, right? Just because we've gotten booked up for 2017 doesn't mean that we're going to get booked up for 2018, and we're still working our ass off to make that stuff happen. And so just want to make sure that that's clear. Let's dive in. The other thing is this. Because of the amount of emails that I've gotten, I responded to every single one of them, and I told them I was going to try to answer their question today. My guess is it's not going to happen because there's just too many, and so I'm going to roll these over into maybe Monday or Tuesday. We'll see what ends up happening, but I'm going to roll these over, so if I don't get to answer your question today and you've tuned in live to hear the answer, I apologize. We'll roll it into next week, and so stay tuned. Hopefully there's still value there. Albert says, dude, you are going on. Thank you for the value provided. Awesome, Albert. Thanks, man. Okay. We're going to dive in. I always prioritize live questions that come through the door because I like to be on my toes with this. And so any live questions, drop them in, and I'll make sure to answer them for you guys live. But we're gonna start here. So here we go. Let's pull these up. I'll never say anyone's full name or their business name either as we kind of talk about this stuff. So. Okay, cool. Here we go. This comes from Michelle. Michelle says this, hi, Ben. My biggest challenge is getting people to just give me a chance. I don't have a lot of photographs in my portfolio. People just seem to assume that it's not worth contacting me. So here's the deal. Michelle, anytime that we're having these problems, I think we just need to reverse engineer the problem that you're having to see how you need to fix it. If you feel like people aren't going to give you a chance because your portfolio isn't bigger, then go make your portfolio bigger. And you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Look, just go make your portfolio bigger. You don't need paying clients to make your portfolio bigger. Go do a personal project. Go do 10 personal projects. Go contact your family and your friends. When I very first started out, I'd like photographed a ton of my wife, and then she's got two gorgeous sisters. Guess what I did? I photographed her gorgeous sisters, right? We just did this. You just at a certain point, you're gonna have more time than you have money, right? And so right now you got a lot of time, is my guess, Michelle. And so just be photographing everyone and anything, and do it. Just, I don't care if you don't get paid for it. Look, like you need to build your portfolio right now. And so start with that. That's my advice to you, Michelle. Let's keep going. Ryan says this, live. Ryan's got a live question. Question: if you're making a bunch of value-added articles like how to plan your wedding day, engagements, how to pose, etc., is it better to make videos or write articles, or a combo of video and writing for SEO purposes? Ryan's coming in as a power user here. He's been paying attention to me for a little while, so Ryan's kind of stepping up his game here. What Ryan is referring to is, if you're going to put a Facebook ad out, if you're going to put an Instagram ad out, don't put an Instagram ad of like an engaged couple that's like a really pretty shot. It's probably like a backlit rain shot and the couple's holding an umbrella or something, because everyone does that. And it's saying like, hey, now taking couples for 2016. Like you, instead of just doing that and asking right off the bat, Ryan is saying he's going to produce value. He's going to give them value first. Say like, want help planning your wedding? Want to know the top 10 tips to hiring the right photographer, right? So he's giving value to engage with his audience, and then delivering on that content. And then he's going to, at some point, even if it's just letting people know that he exists, they're now in his scope, they're in his kind of spectrum. And so Ryan, when it comes to delivering on that type of content, look, play to your strengths. You guys understand this, right? I don't write a bunch. I write a bunch of emails, but I don't write a bunch of blog posts. Play to your strength. I do video. I do video because I think I enjoy video. I enjoy like this little interaction. I enjoy the passion and the energy that I'm able to exude. I think if I actually wrote out on paper some of the things that I say on video, I think I probably offend a lot more people. I think I offend some people as it is currently, but hopefully you guys get the inflection and you get the passion in my voice, and you understand that it's coming from heart. And so I play to my strengths. Ryan, same with you, man. Play to your strengths. What do you like to do? What are you best at? Is it video? Is it written content? Maybe you need to just try both and see what you enjoy more, see what you respond to. A lot of that stuff, Ryan, too, you can split test. You could run 2 ads simultaneously. You could do a one that has a video giveaway. You could do one that has a PDF. See which ones your ideal clients are responding more to, and then just go all in on that. So that's my answer to you, my bud. All right, cool. Let's keep going. Thanks for asking, Ryan. We got another question here that came through. Janelle says this. I'm just beginning my journey, and I have some really big goals. Some days I believe that I'm going to get there, I'm going to accomplish those goals. Other days I feel completely overwhelmed. Janelle, side note, like, you're totally not alone. Everyone feels completely overwhelmed, and everyone has those good days, bad days. She says this: I think consistently believing in yourself when the world is telling you no and you're telling it yes is difficult. So looking at the big picture, creating steps to get to where you want to accomplish. This is partly a confidence thing. I'm not going to address the confidence part of it just yet, because there's some other things that are going on here. But essentially, just starting out and feeling completely overwhelmed. By the way, Janelle, one of the reasons you're feeling completely overwhelmed is because all you're seeing is the highlight reel of everyone who is either A, winning, or they're showing the highlight reel of all the successes, and they're not showing you all their failures, and they're not showing you how shitty the road was getting there, and they're not showing you the nights that they feel exactly like this. Because just so you know, Janelle, you see me even right now, and I feel just like you sometimes. Like on Wednesday, I felt like complete shit. Like, just to be real, right? And so understand that. Understand that when you're just starting out, everyone looks like they got it together. They do. And they don't, right? They don't. And so just do 2 things. Do 2 things that kind of are opposites, right? For starters, Take it one step at a time, little bits, but also go huge, big picture of where you want to get to, and actually objectify, like write those goals down. Because you've got to know, you can't just say like one day I wanna make six figures. It's not specific enough. That's not specific. I get it. Like have the end dream of what you want to accomplish, but then what's the step that you're going to need to take this week? Reverse engineer and write out every single thing that you're going to need to actually do on the daily to make that stuff happen. But to stop comparing yourself. I mean, like, look, our whole culture is like it's this like exceptionalism that's going on. Where in literally everything, by the way, this isn't just about photography. This is about like you turn on the news, and in the news, it's all exceptionalism. It's the furthest extreme. On the news, you're going to hear the most violent stories, right? You're going to hear you're going to hear from the most beautiful people, right? Everyone is going to be the most extreme of all situations, and it's all this exceptionalism. And so when we see all that, and we hear it on the radio, and it's in our news feed, it's in our Instagram, it just that's all we see. And so we look at our life, and we're not in that 1%. Maybe we're even in the 2%. And we're still like, man, like I'm just not there, right? And you just beat ourselves up. Don't do that. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Okay, Lacey. Lacey says this: I think the thing I have the hardest time with is editing. I question if the edit is done enough sometimes, or if there's a better way to achieve the final image I'm looking for. Look, editing, I get it. Yeah, that's basic. I mean, like, it is. Just do it a ton. Just keep editing. And look, here's the deal. Keep editing and mix it up. Change it up. Try other people's styles. Try going big and bright and airy. Try going dark and moody and see what you like. But this is just something, Lacey, that like what you're going through right now is simply because you haven't done it enough. There's nothing I can actually tell you that's going to be like, it's going to solve the problem. You just need to do more of it, right? So just do. Editing is almost one of those 10,000 hour things in a way, right? You know the rule. It's like you do anything for 10,000 hours and you become the expert. And so you just haven't done enough. Keep editing. Okay, sorry, that's not like Lacey, I understand that's probably not like the answer that you wanted to hear. There's all kinds of people who are going to sell you something about editing. Like, hell, I even have like an editing course. At the end of the day, you just need to effing edit, right? And edit and get feedback, right? Get feedback out there. And when someone tells you it blows, don't get pissed at them. Keep editing. Okay, cool. Renee says, I took a bunch of your advice for the confidence and over delivering, like you parentheses, like they buy you, not your photos. Yes. And I booked my first $4,000 wedding. The phone outline was a huge help. I've been in business for 6 months. Thank you for all this. Renee, that is so dope. Like, you've been in business for 6 months and you just booked a $4,000 wedding. Thanks for telling me that, girl. That's so awesome to hear. I freaking love this stuff. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Leah says this: finding the right pricing for my location and specialty and how to set up my packages that work best for my clients. I think I'm too low in pricing and some clients have said I'm too expensive. Okay, all kinds of stuff going on there. So finding the right pricing for your location and specialty, I guess maybe you mean like your niche in the industry, and how to set up packages that work best for your clients. I think you think you're too low, but some clients think you're too expensive. Oh my gosh, there's so many things going on there. So for starters, with finding the right pricing for your location, I think I understand where you're coming from with that, but one of the things that you need to do is you actually need to figure out the right pricing for you, meaning like the right pricing to like live your life. Because the right pricing for your location, it might not actually result in you actually having a sustainable business / happiness, like joy, which is the only reason why we're in business, right? So if everything that you're going to do is going to be bent to the will of your location, I think you're thinking about it a little bit wrong, because if you do that, and then you walk away with a business that can't sustain yourself, you're just going to effing hate everything, right? And so instead, Leah, I guess let's kind of backtrack around that and figure out, what do you need to make? What do you need to make? And not just to, like, to pay the bills, but to enjoy life. Like, figure out what that dollar amount is, covering all of your expenses, figuring out your cost of goods sold, all that kind of stuff. I've got a pricing calculator for that. But you need to figure that out. And then you need to understand, what do you want your life to look like? How many weddings do you want to shoot? Do you want to be the photographer who shoots 50 weddings? And that's fine. You could thrive off that. Then hell, go for it. Do the 50 weddings. And then at what average price do you need to bring in for 50 weddings? And if that average price looks like maybe it's too much or too little. Maybe you only want to shoot 20 weddings, and then you run the numbers and you realize if you want to shoot 20 weddings for the amount of money that you need to make, your average price is maybe going to be $7,000 a wedding. I don't know. I'm just being hypothetical, throwing it out. If you look at that, you might need to reevaluate and be like, well, shit. Instead of 20 weddings, I need to do 40 for $3,500, right? But I think that kind of needs to be your starting point, and then you need to understand all the value that you're going to need to deliver on, because the value that you provide your clients has to outweigh the cost. That's all an exchange is, right? Your value has to outweigh the cost that you're asking for. And so it can't just be about photographs. It can't just be about pictures, clicks of a shutter, right? You can, don't worry about the competition. There's going to be people who, there are 99% of the photographers in my city cost less than me, but they don't get me, right? You understand that, right? There has to be more value that you give apart from just images and photographs. And so, I think just pump the brakes and go and rethink about the dollar amount that you need to be making. I think is a good move. And you're going to get clients. Dude, we get clients all the time who tell us we're too expensive. That's fine. We're too expensive for them. It's just the reality of the thing. We're too expensive for them. But I'm not too expensive for me. I understand my costs. I understand what I need to make. I understand what I need to make to provide for myself and my team and my wife and my 2-year-old daughter and now my twins on the way. Hey, I understand the value that I have to offer. And so, yeah, I'm too expensive for you. I'm not too expensive for me. All right, cool. Let's keep going. Thanks for asking, Leah. Hey, quick side note. Eventually there's going to come a question that I'm going to totally lose it and go off on someone. Just to be clear, I am not losing it on you. I'm not mad at you, but sometimes I just get fired up and I just go with it. So I'm not a dick. Oh, God. Okay, cool. Tony says this. If you do an engagement session for a couple and they get the digital images, how do you keep them from using them for Shutterfly and shit like that? Tony, good question. You know what? I don't lose sleep over that. Here's the deal, Tony. When our clients hire us, from the moment that they've brought us in, everything that we're doing, we're talking about our expertise as artists and as image creators and people who value print. And so we make sure that our offering is up front and it's there. They understand why it's important. And so they might, who knows, maybe there's people that have gone and they've done that. I just don't care. To be real, my conviction is this, that they actually have print. My conviction is that they actually have print on their walls and in their house. And there's this crazy thing that happens that just when you express that conviction with so much passion and you show them your own, Tony, your own album, your own book, right? This little one, big one, I don't care. When you show them that you've invested into this, that you've dropped a fucking grand on it, right? So I'm trying to not say the effort as much in these videos. Anyway, but that you've done that, right? They're at a certain point, they come alongside that belief and they come alongside that system, and they're not interested in saving $100 to get something junkier. They almost want to experience the same joy that you have. And so, but there's people that probably have, and I just don't care. I don't care. Part of it too is I'm also making sure that I'm making the money that I need to make as well. With an engagement shoot, for example, is going to be minimum 800, more likely 1,400 for us, and so I'm okay with it. Just don't lose sleep over it, man. Okay, Scott says this live. Hey Ben, quick question. Also might be a stupid question. It's not, Scott, promise you. How many final images on average do you send your clients? I've been averaging 1,000 images. I'm trying to put together my premiere night and can't fathom laying out 1,000 images on an album. Advice. Scott, look, it could be 500, it could be 700, it could be 1,000. It's probably around that 700 mark is where we tend to fall. Whatever. I would never make an album that is every single picture from the wedding. I'm going to go through and I'm going to hand pick each of those images, and it might be 250, it might be 300, I don't know, it might be 100, but I'm going to be choosing those images. That's going to be the initial presentation, right? It's just like a slideshow. You wouldn't show a slideshow of 1,000 pictures to the client for the first time. Just as much, you're not going to show an album with 1,000 images in it. You're going to choose the best and tell their story as the expert in the best way possible. Great question, Scott. Matthew says this, question. Sorry. Don't know if you can take this now, but where do you get custom stationery? Boxes, okay, there you go. Boxes, folders, envelopes. Matthew, that's a really good question. I don't remember exactly. Let me think for a second. We do some stuff, honestly, just basically through Vistaprint. There's something, I think we do like some envelopes and some like custom thank you cards through Vistaprint. We do, I'd have to go look at some of the other companies, man. I actually don't know offhand. I'll do the research for you and I'll get back, okay? I apologize, I don't know. But there's not like, I actually don't go through some of like the main kind of like photo companies. I'm just like, I find some of the best deals online. I go for those. Tony says, love it. Thanks. Angela, was there something specific that happened or something that led to you believing in print so strongly? Angela, yes, because I didn't. Just to be clear, I've not always believed in print. All right. I think this is one of the biggest struggles that we have as photographers in regards to digital files and stuff. We don't want to charge for digital files. We feel weird about that because we haven't bought in. We actually think that digital files are the best thing, right? We're like, if I was to get a shoot, I'd want all the digital files, right? So we struggle with that, and I did too. There's the other side of it too, by the way. We don't want to deal with print. Right? We don't want to actually have to deal with the quote unquote hassle of ordering an album or designing an album or sitting down with the client and thinking about how a canvas will lay out on their wall. We don't want to do that work. And so we just give them the digital files and we make them deal with it, right? We make them do it. And then we justify that guilt by saying, oh no, we're a service. This is actually a service model. And so this is a service that we're doing by actually not providing a service to them. I find it very interesting how we validate that belief. But anyhow, so yes, Angela, the thing that really helped me to understand the value of it was really two things. Maybe three things. Would be I met a guy, his name's Fundy, Andrew Funderburg. His name's Andrew. His name's Andrew. God, okay? He owns Fundy Software. I met him, and he started talking to me about all this stuff. And this was like maybe 4 years ago. I met him super randomly. Had not been using Fundy Software or anything. So anyway, I started talking to him, and he started telling me all these things and stuff, and I was like, okay, cool, whatever. And then I took a course from another photographer named John Michael Cooper, and he started talking to me about the client's perspective of print and also some of the business advantages as well in terms of sustainability and that kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, wow, maybe there's something to be gained financially here, right? Here's the deal. Do you know when you're doing something that is good for the wrong reasons? Understand this, right? You can do good things in life for 100% the wrong reasons. It does not mean you should stop doing the good thing. It means you should change the reason why you're doing it. Does that make sense? When I very first started with albums, the entire reason I started with albums was because it made me money. Do you get that? It made me money, and that's why we did it. That's not the right reason, really, to be quite honest. But I didn't want to stop doing it because of the wrong reason. I just needed to understand the correct reason behind it. Okay, cool. That's like big life philosophy, by the way. We just got deep for a second. It wasn't until I actually had a kid and I made prints of my daughter. The day that I made a photograph of my daughter and I put it in my house, and I'll tell the story. There's a 12-inch by 12-inch picture of my daughter, and it hangs at the top of my stairs. And one of my good friends made a picture frame for it. He matted it and he framed it and he made it real and he hung it on my wall. Okay, and every single night I get to carry my little girl up the stairs, right? And I would lay her down in her crib, and everywhere I go, all I want, my only goal is for my daughter to know that I love her and that I'm proud of her and that she makes me happy and that she's going to do great and meaningful things when she grows up. And I'm thankful that she shared her toys or that she smiled at the lady that walked by. And I just want her to know these things. All I want her to know is that I love her, right? You get that? That's all I want her to know. And so I did this for about 1 year and 3 months, just holding her and carrying up the stairs and laying her down, holding her, carrying up the stairs and laying her down and telling her all these things, right? And all I want her to know is that I love her. And at about 1 year and 3 months and a few days, by this point, all the words that she could say was Mama, Dada, Bibi, right? Her name's B, by the way. So Mama, Dada, Bibi. She couldn't say, thanks for telling me that, Dad. She couldn't say, I love you too, Dad. She couldn't understand that stuff. And so as I'm carrying up the stairs one day, she perked her little self up and she saw herself in the picture. Angela, she saw herself in the picture and she looked at it and she pointed to herself and she went, Bibi. And then she pointed at me and she went, Dada. And then she just sunk herself back into me. And at that point, she knew that I loved her. She got it. She understood. And I knew that she understood. And that is worth the world. That is worth the world. That's all I want in life, is for her to know that she is loved and will continue to know that she is loved and that she gets to see herself growing up. I want her to see herself growing up on our walls, that she knows that her mom and her dad are always so effing proud of her, right? And the day then that she found a photograph of her grandma that she's named after, down in the basement, a photograph of her grandma B that she's named after, and she brought it up the stairs randomly, serendipitously, brought it up the stairs, and she hands it to me, and it's a picture of me when I'm like 12, and I'm standing next to my grandma, who again, that she's named after, and she points, like she gives it to me, and she's like, Daddy! And she actually recognized me as a 12-year-old boy sitting next to my grandma, and I got to sit down with her and be like, this is the woman you're named after, right? And I got to tell her the story about her grandma. That shit would have never happened. That shit would have never happened. I've seen the power and the importance of print in my own life, right? I understand how valuable it is. And now I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of seeing my little girl flip through family albums and just literally just sit there and just point. She goes, Papa, Grandma, Juju, Daddy, Mommy, Beeb. And she just goes through. And she sees all the people that she loves. And there's this crazy thing that happens when you're engaging with something that is physical and that is real, that you can touch, that you can hear the sound of the paper, right? It changes the way that you actually think about things. It changes the way that your memory gets recorded. It brings you closer to those people. The more physical the experiences, the closer in proximity that you are to an individual, the deeper the emotional responses that you have. When you're just simply looking at light on a screen hitting your eyes, it doesn't do shit for that. It doesn't. This is why like reading a Kindle book isn't as, you don't retain the information like when you're reading something physical on paper, or when you're committing something down, when you're writing something down with a pen and paper, not typing it out, right, with little emojis. You don't remember that. It's about that. It's about legacy. It's about having something that's going to last when I'm dead and gone, right? And so that's the conviction that I have is, and this is why I believe so much that you shouldn't make sample albums of some bullshit client that is random, that was at a beautiful venue, that you should make instead an album of your family. And sit that out and talk about that with your clients. And they get to see and understand why this actually like is something that they need, that has value. Like it's your obligation, it's your duty, it's your moral obligation as a photographer to not just hand over the digital files. That's all bullshit, right? And it wasn't until I actually saw this take place in my own life that the dots started connecting. And you know what, you guys, if you want to sell albums, you need to actually be willing to show that you've spent the money, that you've found it worthwhile, right? This is just like sales 101. You want to go sell a BMW, you got to fucking drive a BMW, right? And not the one that was lent to you. Like you got to be willing to put up your own money. Yes, I'm sponsored by Miller's and Fundy and they love me, but they probably love me because I spend so much damn money on their stuff all the time, right? You get that. I'm not getting this stuff for free. I'm all in on it. Whew. That's why, Angela. Sorry, I told you guys I was going to go off. I did. All kinds of stuff. Okay, cool. Man, all kinds of cool comments coming through. Okay, I haven't even gotten through any of these questions so far. Let me keep going on these live ones here for a minute. Thank you, Angela, for asking me that question, by the way. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to talk about that because it's so real. Okay, Jeff says, can you explain, I'm still coming down. Can you explain how you handle the conversation when the couple really wants a specific venue for an engagement shoot, but the place requires money, like a permit? I've had clients push me to do a shoot. I've had clients push me to do the shoot anyways and try to not get caught, but they really need to front the money for the permit. We are talking around $150, $200 for the couple that doesn't want to pay. Look, Jeff, just stay with your own, this can't be anything that's wishy-washy, right? This is just it's a black and white thing. Look, if we're going to shoot at this venue, it's going to cost an extra $150 to get a permit. No, we can't do it. We will get kicked out. It's just an understood thing. And I'm not going to risk, because the liability falls on me. I'm not going to risk the liability of the business if, I get some sort of trespassing thing or they find me. It's just like a black and white. And this isn't something that anyone's, if you got someone who's really pushing back on this in any way, F that noise. Like, that's not, like, that's just like a black and white thing. I appreciate you asking, man, but there should be no issue with that. Catherine says, Justin and Mary give their couples a print and a frame the day of their wedding. I like this because it seems like a much more feasible idea than the idea of a slideshow. Do you think that giving the first print lowers the excitement for reviewing the rest of the images and ordering prints, or could it maybe prime the pump? Dude, 100% prime the pump. Look, they're not giving 1,000 pictures in frames. It's like that one picture you put up on Facebook. You know what I mean? So no, I think one image makes sense. I love that idea. I love that you get to give them something real, and give them that excitement. Like you said, prime the pump for it too in regards to the presentation of images. But Justin and Mary are friends of mine, and I love what they do. I love that they do that. Catherine, I think it's amazing. Yeah. Perfect. Skylar says this, I put it all over my website and send a separate email regarding session fees, not including prints. I've had 2 clients walk away after their session, refusing to even see the images because they were confused about the pricing and cannot pay any additional for the images. How do I possibly clear this up? I am almost wanted, hold on, I am almost wanted by to have the sign a disclosure stating they understand that. What are your thoughts? Skylar, let me reread this part of the question a little bit more here. I've had 2 clients walk away after their session, my guess is a portrait session or an engagement session, refusing to even see the images because they were confused about pricing and cannot pay any additional for images. My guess is what's going on here, Skylar, is you're referring to you're doing an engagement session, a portrait session, and they don't get the digital files. They would have to purchase physical prints, is my guess of what you're talking about. Look, if that's the response that you're getting, you're not managing the expectations clearly enough. And so I understand that you have it all over your website and that you're sending an email, but guess what you need to do? You need to pick up the mother effing phone, Skylar. Right? You need to talk to people on the phone and actually explain this stuff and actually engage with them and understand what they want and what they need and make sure that you're fulfilling their needs. But you got to pick up the phone. There's certain things that you just you can't get away with just emailing and pushing over. I think you actually have to pick up the phone. That's like you brought up having them come by to sign a disclosure agreement that they understood it. Don't have them come by. Just pick up the phone and talk to them. Right? Just communicate. I just think you need to do a better job of communicating and managing expectations. Thanks for asking, man. Sarah, Catherine, awesome, cool. Angela, yay. I think we just got through the live questions. Let's hop back in and talk about some of these other ones. Here's the deal. There has been, you guys, this is really interesting. I get the opportunity to ask again about the biggest struggles and challenges that we face as photography community, but also just individually as photographers. And a majority of the response, well, sorry, not a majority, but like if there was any grouping that gets more requests than anything, it's actually about confidence. It's about lack of self-esteem. It's about believing in your work. It's about believing that you have the confidence to actually charge what you need to charge, or the confidence to step out there and photograph a wedding, or the confidence to know what you're worth. And so like I've got probably 15 emails that have been sent to me that saying, Ben, I struggle with this, Ben, I struggle with this, Ben, I struggle with this. And I think rather than going through and doing them individually, I want to dedicate a full episode to talking about understanding your worth, talk about confidence and self-esteem, and kind of addressing that. And so maybe rather than doing it individually here, I'm going to dedicate an episode this week to help answer the questions. By the way, Nicole, if you're watching, Kara, if you're watching, Ashley, if you're watching, Virginia, Jason, Julia, and you wrote to me and you said, confidence, Ben, confidence, my own self-worth. I've heard you. I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to you guys, okay? Awesome. Hey, Kyandra. Hey, Ben, what are some of the questions you ask clients when they first meet to promote them leading the conversation and talking about what's important to them? Hey, that's a great question. So one of the early questions that gets asked, or I think a lot of times photographers talk about, is tell me how you got engaged. Tell me how you got engaged. And to be honest, it's just a bullshit question. It's a question that has really very little value towards things. Unless it does. So let me explain. Rather than asking that, one of my favorite questions is to ask, what's your story? And then I usually believe, and I love that you said this, to find out what's important to them. Because even when I say, what's your story? A lot of times will get a client who'll be like, what do you mean? What's my story? Like I will literally say, what's your story? Like, what's important to you guys? That's why that's one of the very first questions that I ask a client. What's your story? What's important to you guys? And at that point, it gives them the freedom to choose anything to talk about. If they want to tell me about their engagement story because it is important to them, they will, right? But then from there, man, Chandra, it's organic. Like you actually have to be curious and interested, and so you have to be willing to invest fully all in on focusing on them and actually giving a damn. And so, because they're going to tell you something that you're not going to be ready for. There's no possible way you're going to be ready for a script. And if you did have a script and they tell you something that's significant, and then you just move on to the next question that you've prepared or that you've thought about, you're just going to look like a tool. Like you're going to look like someone who's just going through the motions. And so once you've asked that initial question of like, what's your story? What's important to you? At that point, you actually have to be engaged with them and be willing to listen and then dig deeper. And so one of my favorite things then to go into after that is when they start telling me something, I don't just accept necessarily everything at face value. And so you could just say why, like why is that? Like, why is that? Why did you decide that? Why is that important? You said that you just guys got engaged at the down at the pier. Is there a reason why the pier is important to your relationship? Like, so you could say why. But one of my favorite things to talk about, and I mentioned this at Mystic, is when someone says some sort of like keyword or like buzzword or something that's really vague, or maybe it's not vague, maybe it sounds pretty specific. Like one of the things I fell in love with about, let's just say this, like hypothetically, one of the favorite things I fell in love with about Leslie is how well she listens. Like her empathy is just it makes me better, right? So I could say that. That's me pretending to be a groom. On the other end, I would say this. I'd say, so she's a really good listener. What does that mean to you? She's empathetic. What does that mean to you? And so to dig deeper, what does that mean to that person? And to get them to further unpack that and to further explain an example, or even literally to ask for an example, right? And so if they start talking about the first time they met and how funny he was, like I'd say, like tell me more about that. Like, what's one of the funny, like what's a funny memory that you guys have together or something? And so just be willing to keep going deeper and going deeper. But it's all off that one question, and at that point, you actually have to give a shit, and that's hard. It's hard. I actually got to a point where I was talking to a lead one day, and we were just so all in. And to be quite honest, like I was like, they were crying, I was crying. Like it was just like a really, like the further we got into understanding what was actually important to them and understanding what had gone on in their life that had brought them together, it was a really emotional experience. The groom looked over at me and he's like, man, this is like got to be really exhausting for you. This has got to be really draining for you to sit with like clients and like hear this stuff and to dig into their stories and all that stuff. And I looked at him and I was like, actually, it's really emotionally fulfilling. It's not really emotionally exhausting. It's emotionally fulfilling. It's like it's a more holistic view of emotions and your spectrum, and it makes me very introspective on my own life. And so, anyhow, great question, Calendar. Great question. Cayenne. Okay, cool. Catherine says this: what is your opinion on doing in-person sales after an engagement session instead of digitals if you've booked that same couple for that wedding? How do you think, or do you think engagement IPS is too much if they're dropping so much money on the wedding and those prints or albums, etc.? Do you think they would feel like you're just trying to pump them for money? I think that's how I'd feel as a client if engagement IPS were the case. Catherine, that's a really good question. I think it all comes down to managing expectations, having a reason for why you're doing what you're doing, and being fully bought in, all in on it. And so if you're just candidly, if you're questioning it, then you should not do it. Because as soon as you question it, there's no possible way you're going to be able to sell it. There's no possible way. You'd have to fully believe that it's the right choice to do in order to do it. We currently don't do that. Part of the reason we don't is twofold. To be straight honest, it is a time thing because of everything that I'm doing with Six Figure Photography and Sounds Very Creative and about to have the twins and everything. From a timing standpoint, it's just not something that right now we're going to do. The second reason is we do charge a fair amount for our engagement sessions. Again, $1,400, right? And so at a $1,400 price point, I have no problem with them having the digitals. Here's the deal: what I would actually like to do is still they can have the digital files. That's fine, but I still, to be quite honest, if you actually sat down with them, having an understanding and a conviction of print and valuing it and seeing it in your own life, and you actually sat down to present their images for the first time for them in a print format, in a narrative format, and showed it to them, you would make more sales. And we would make more sales, right? It's just all about how do you position it. It's all about making sure that it works. Again, like you can still do that. They get the digital files. You can still do that, but you can also still do a premiere date in person of those engagement pictures, and you could still talk about why. You could still talk about having these things actually real. And so they have the need fulfilled of having those images, but they also have the opportunity to have print in their own life, to actually have the stuff real, to have a sign-in book, or to have something for their living room. Because a lot of times wedding images don't usually go out necessarily in like the living room or the hallway. A lot of times that goes behind closed doors, behind like maybe a bedroom or something, right? It's a little bit more personal, a little bit more like you don't want necessarily everything in your house to be wedding. And so when you have like an engagement session that's a little bit more relaxed and casual, it makes a little bit more sense to actually put out all the images that are down in our main kind of living area. They're just portraits. They're not from our wedding. Our wedding is actually in our bedroom. And so to talk about that and to say like you're going to have all the wedding pictures and you can make prints from those, I think engagement pictures are some of the greatest things to actually put up as to put up in the living room, put up in the hallway, put up going up the stairs, and to provide them the opportunity to choose if they would like to do that. If you start doing this and you start doing it well and you start providing value up front, right? Not just treating it as sales, but providing value to them, then it would be awesome. And people are going to buy prints and you'll make more money and they'll fucking have prints in their house. So I think that, Catherine, yeah, what you're responding to makes sense because I think the way that you're thinking about it is all about the money side of it, right? And you're feeling gross about it. And if you're feeling gross about it, then don't do it because there's no way you'll sell it. There's no way yeah. So hopefully I answered that for you. Okay, cool. Sweet. Hey, I'm going to do like one more question. I'm going to do one live because there's still there's so many questions. Okay, I'm going to do one more question live if it comes in. And then I'm going to bust because my inbox is in the 70s from all you guys. And so I've got to reply to all you guys still. So, and then I'm just going to keep funneling these through. So I'll take one more live question if someone's got it. I know at this point, everyone's just waiting. They're waiting for that person to ask the question. Whichever one comes in first is the one I'll take. And if one doesn't come in, I'll just grab one here to prepare to talk about. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll go this route. So we'll talk about getting clients for a second because the other thing, the number one thing that I get the most of is about confidence, is about self-worth. The second thing that I get questions about is, of course, getting clients, especially getting clients if you're in a new area or getting clients if you're just starting out. And so we're going to talk about getting clients if you're just starting out, okay? Like you're just beginning. Because I got a bunch of these emails. Like Margaret says, I just started and I'm struggling to make people know that I'm here in business, right? Or my problem is that no one understands or sees that my website exists. No one knows that I exist. Now look, when you're just starting out, when you're moving to a new area, the first thing that you need to do, the very first thing is like, look, for starters, by the way, the thing that you want to have happen, like when you say like no one knows you exist, right? No one knows you exist. Like that's like word of mouth, right? Like word of mouth and these kind of like long form, passive forms of marketing and client acquisition, they take a lot of time. It's the long play. SEO and word of mouth generation, it's all the long play. And so when you boom, hit the scene, you have no word of mouth. When you boom, pick up and move to a new location, when you were in, New Jersey, now you're in Utah, like you have no word of mouth to go off of, right? And so you have to be incredibly active. You have to be incredibly active in your marketing and actually go out and take the clients. Go out and do it's aggressive and it's work and it's hustle, because word of mouth isn't going to do anything and your SEO isn't there. There's nothing. And by the way, you guys, all this stuff, even if you've got your shit together and you've got your SEO and you've got your word of mouth, you still need to be doing active marketing, because at any given moment that stuff could go away. At any given moment, Google could just tear down your SEO, and they could change your whole algorithm, or something could go wrong in the industry, or you could be forced to move and pick up and go home, or go somewhere else. And so, to always be aware of, this is why we do everything. We rule on SEO. Our word of mouth campaign around here in Columbus is awesome. These are great things, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna slow up on my active pursuit of marketing. And so the very first thing you need to do is understand your local audience, your immediate audience, and you need to be that person. I've got so much shit to say about the people who push the various things it works or candles, or Lularoe, or I don't know what it's called, right? I get annoyed by them, but man, God bless their hustle, because at that point they're reaching out. They understand the value of your local market. And as a photographer, you need to understand the value of your immediate local audience, and that will become your word of mouth. That will become the thing that will eventually scale. And so you need to just put it out there to every single person. I am starting business. I am here. I have just moved. I am here. Blast it. Literally go through your inbox. Go through. There's a thing that no one ever really looks at on your Gmail. Is this your contacts? You need to go through every single contact and just personally message them. Hey, actually, we haven't spoken in a while. I started a wedding photography business. I'd love to get a chance to town. Dude, boom, 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 boom. Just go to town, message every single person. Facebook, Instagram. That's step one. Step one is not Facebook. Step one is not build your Instagram following. Step one is not the Wedding Wire. Step one is not Google AdWords. Step one is not a bridal show. Step one is not contacting a wedding planner or the venue. Step one is reaching out to your immediate local market and saying, here I am, I'm in business, let's do this thing. There's a couple things you could do to get this going. Create a challenge for yourself. Be actually a friend of mine I just saw, he's doing something similar to this, but I've seen photographers do mini sessions, but do a 30-day, 30 portrait session challenge that you've committed that you're gonna do a portrait session for a couple every single day for a month. 30 sessions, 30 days, because again, you've got 0 clients because you just started, and you have all the time in the world because you just started, and so you're going to do 30 portrait sessions in 30 days, and then you need to make it happen. And if that means you're contacting anyone, everyone, if that means you have to go to the mall that day and just be anyone want a portrait session, you make it happen. And the reason you make it happen is because it's worth it. If this is, I say this all the time, if this is your dream job, if this is what makes you happy, if this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, if you want to see your business win, if you want to have financial freedom, if you want to be an artist, a photographer, then it's fucking worth it, right? So go do it. That's it. And if it's not worth it, then go do something else. But understand this, if you go do something else, it's going to require just as much time and just as much dedication and just as much commitment. But at least you'll be happy, okay? At least you'll be happy doing it. That's all I got. You guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for asking questions. Thanks for showing up. I got to kill the F words. I know. I appreciate the grace for that. Anyhow, you guys, thank you so much. We're going to do another live episode with more Q&A next week. We'll probably do 2 or 3 of them because we just got so many questions coming up. So, awesome. Thanks, you guys. Cheers. Have a good Friday. Get things done. Spend time with your family, too. All right, bye.